We mobilized the largest occupation of D.C. by the National Guard since the American Revolution.
Are you a fucking idiot? When you give nuts and conspiracy theories high positions in the government, like the director of the FBI and the deputy director of the FBI, what you end up with is nuts and conspiracy theories being broadcast as though they are real and as though they are reality on national television. And that is what happened with the Maria Bartiromo, another wild conspiracy theorist. Remember, Maria Bartiromo is the woman who got the email from Sidney Powell from the lady who said that the wind told her she's a ghost, but she doesn't believe it. Who believes that Antonin Scalia was killed in a human hunting expedition. And also that these voting machine companies were in some grand conspiracy that was run by Hugo Chavez, who's been dead for years, and that's why the election was stolen. And Maria Bartiromo gave us this conspiracy theory because to her it was credible. I always like to get that little ditty out of the way. So she interviewed both of these dipshits just the other day, asking Kash Patel and Dan Bongino a bunch of questions. And even the framing of the question, we're going to get to the bottom here of what really happened on January 6th. You know, the event that was broadcast internationally that we all witnessed live. The insurrection against the country. The violent attempted overthrow of the United States government in service to overturning a free and fair, settled American election. We watched it. But what really happened, she asks. And I broke this clip up into 3 parts. The first part, without even knowing it, because they're so stupid, he leaves holes in his story and lets us know he's lying with his answer that he thinks is really getting the job done, but really it's letting us know he's a liar.
What actually happened on January 6th?
So there is, as it seems that I find myself in a similar situation as Russiagate. Because on January 6th, in the prior Trump administration, I was the chief of staff to the Department of Defense. And I spent 4 years and a minor fortune litigating the truth because people politicized what actually happened on January 6th. And we now know unequivocally that President Trump lawfully authorized the deployment of National Guard, and me as the head of the Office of Secretary of Defense, with the Secretary of Defense, took that action. When it finally came in, because it had to have the governor and mayor of D.C.'s approval on it. That's the way the law works. And once it finally came in on January 6th, remember, we offered to them days beforehand, and they rejected it. We've put out the letters, and your show has done great coverage showing how it was rejected. We mobilized the fastest cold start in Washington, D.C. since World War II, and the largest occupation of D.C. by the National Guard since the American Revolution.
2 things. He says, I was chief of staff for the Secretary of Defense. He was. And then he says, and now we know unequivocally that President Trump lawfully authorized the deployment of the National Guard. Well, what do you mean now you know? If you knew it before because of your position, what evidence convinced you even more? If you know, you know. This is a lie. This is a conspiracy theory. And you're getting ready to find out how they're going to bring us this new information that he learned. But the other thing is that we mobilized the fastest cold start in Washington, D.C. since World War II and the largest occupation of D.C. by the National Guard since the American Revolution. There's a whole bunch there. One, just the overarching element of why would we need the fastest cold start of the National Guard deploying to Washington, D.C. if it was a peaceful, pleasant, lovely family reunion type event, not an insurrection. It was a gathering that was filled with love, Donald Trump has said. It was a love fest. Why would we need rapid deployment of a military into the streets of Washington, D.C. if it was a love fest? It's very, very curious, Donald Trump. Very curious, Kash Patel, director of the FBI. Secondly, are you a fucking idiot? Cash Patel, are you a fucking idiot? Because Washington, D.C. was not the capital of the United States. Washington, D.C. was a swampy area, uninhabited largely, during the American Revolution. You know that George Washington, there was no White House when George Washington was president. And that was after the American Revolution. Secondly, there was no National Guard before we were a country. You fucking idiot. FBI director telling you that we mobilized the fastest cold start in Washington, D.C. since World War II and the largest occupation of D.C., this empty wilderness area during the American Revolution. But it was the largest occupation of D.C. by a National Guard that didn't exist in a city that didn't exist during a conflict that founded our country. Stop electing stupid people who appoint stupid people to high positions, please. Please. Second clip, more lies. And then the third clip is Cash Patel and Dan Bongino, whose forehead is like a drive-in movie theater. You could just get a projector and just project movies onto it. Yeah, what a couple of just winners here. Watch more subterfuge from Cash Patel.
We mobilized the fastest cold start in Washington, D.C. since World War II, and the largest occupation of D.C. by the National Guard since the American Revolution. That's what happened on January 6th, but what you and your viewers want to know, now that we've beat back that disinformation campaign with actual truth, is what was the FBI doing? Well, we got answers coming. We just found a trove of information, and it's on its way to Capitol Hill right now. And they've asked, and they're getting them, and you're getting answers on January 6th. You're getting answers on what sourcing was utilized, what money was utilized, how many assets were utilized, who made those decisions. You're getting it. We can only control the FBI, but you're getting it from the FBI.
Were there FBI agents undercover egging people on?
Like I said, that answer is coming, and it's on its way to Congress.
You're about to...
The reason he's not given the answer is because they haven't had time to construct a narrative, to falsify documents, to just create a new conspiracy theory. They haven't had time yet. That's the answer. And she goes deeper, wants more detail, and Cash Patel, he chimes in, and then Dan Bongino with his, again, you know, his 12 head. It's not a forehead. It's much, much larger. You know, listen, it would be one thing if he had a brain that supported the size of this, you know, silver screen, this IMAX screen of a forehead, but it's not. It's pea brain in there. So I don't know what the forehead is doing. Maybe just protecting the pea because that's all he's got. He's got to really protect the little brain he has. Watch this.
I saw it. I saw the portfolio of information. We dug far and wide to find it. And I'm pretty sure now we have a conclusive, definitive answer. But you and the public are going to have it. You're going to see it in writing over to Capitol Hill. But I just want to be sure we're clear, having been an agent and a police officer. There is a difference between an agent. I know you know this. I don't mean to sound ridiculous. An agent, meaning a trained GS 1811 federal agent, and a source or an asset. There's a difference. So when you see the material, which I promise you is coming, again, I'm not asking you to trust us. I know it's coming because I saw it yesterday. When you see it, I just want you to understand that it's not an apology for anything.
Thank you.
But there's a difference between agents and assets. Yeah. And I just hope when people put that information out there, they make the distinction. Not that it's better or worse, but there's a distinction there.
It's a very important distinction.
And I want to level set here. I want the American public to go back and look at what our predecessors stated to Congress under oath, that there were no FBI sources utilized in and around January 6th. I'm going to leave it at that.
Very convincing, Dan Bongino. Very convincing. Everyone really believes you. No, trust me. We believe you. Look, this is going to be more controversy because of the fact that MAGA is going to run with this narrative the lies that they spin, already they're dialing back expectations about it. Well, it wasn't FBI agents, but it was sources. It was, they're going to lie. And then when all the things that they say, mark my words here, bookmark the video, when the lies that they tell get pushed back against and proven to be falsehoods, then the narrative will change. MAGA will already believe the lies, so there won't be any time or need to recount or issue a correction. That's what they're doing. They're spinning this to give justification for Donald Trump's anti-American, anti-democracy assault on the country. What do you think? I would appreciate it. Did you watch this? Where am I wrong? If you're going to tell me I'm wrong because he actually has a 14 head, not a 12 head, maybe you're right. Comment below. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. You can also email me daily@dollemore.com. Please consider supporting this work. I would appreciate it very much. You can click the join button below for $2 a month, become a channel member, or you can go to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. I love and appreciate you very much. Thanks for joining me today. I will see you next time. Wow, I rattled that off, didn't I? Be genuine. Take care of one another.